Ready? Hi, I'm Mark Lymperopulos, and if I would have graduated, I would have graduated in 1967, a class of 67. But I didn't. I dropped out of high school in 1966 for an infraction to school by chewing gum in a library. So the discipline that was meted out to me was that I had to do 13 weeks of detention, which I thought was a little over the top, and I expressed my beliefs to the dean at the time, and he said to me, well, if you don't like that, quit. So, being the smart guy I was at 17, in reality dumb, of course, that was a little play on words, but I quit. So at 17, I quit high school, my junior year. I didn't even complete my junior year. We were midway. I don't even remember what time of the year it was, but I knew it was in 66 that I quit my junior year. So I was 17 at the time. I wanted to go in the military, but my mother wouldn't sign for me because I was her baby, sole surviving son, the only one boy left to carry on the Lymperopulos name, so she wasn't having anything to do with me, wasn't going to sign for me. So I had to make a deal with my mom. I said, well, okay. I said, but you know what? There's a draft. If I get drafted, I have to go. So she said, well, that's different then. So, okay. Unbeknownst to my mother, I lied, because what I did then was the day I turned 18, I registered for the draft, and I tried to up my draft. And I remember the lady's name, Margaret Zimmerman. I'll never forget her. I used to go visit her every week because I upped my draft so I could get drafted, because that was the whole premise with my deal with my mother was that, well, if you get drafted, well, then I can't stop it. So the minute I turned 18 and I went there, I offered myself to up my draft so I could get drafted sooner. Well, it took a long time for that to happen, but finally I did get my draft notice. It took like 9-10 months before I finally got my draft notice. After visiting this lady like every 2 weeks for 10 months. What, Mrs. Zimmerman, what happened? How come I haven't got my notice yet? So when I got my notice, I instantly joined the Marine Corps, because I didn't want to go in the Army. I had an uncle who was a Marine during the Second World War, and he was at some pretty unique places in the South Pacific and the Solomon Islands, like places you've probably heard of, Guadalcanal and Okinawa, Iwo Jima, and all them areas. So I always wanted to be a Marine. So I joined the Marine Corps after I got drafted. So my mom's up in heaven now. She probably heard those stories. Probably knew it anyway. But so I went in the Marine Corps. I served in Vietnam in 1969. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life. My only regret is that I wasn't able to serve longer. I wish I could have served longer. But there were some friends, two were former classmates here at Ridgewood, Neil Cacciatola and James Bowman, pardon me, not James Bowman, Donald Bowman, who were friends of mine. They were killed in action in Vietnam. And these were guys I used to, one neighbor, the Bowman guy, lived one block away, and we used to play baseball in the corner. He was an older guy. He was a couple years older than me, so. And then Neil, we meandered in these halls right here in Ridgewood and did all kinds of crazy things. And he was killed in '67, as well as Donald Bowman was killed in '67 too. So that was my my Ridgewood story, my Marine Corps story, and I remember those guys, and they were part of this place. So I reflect back and I think of those guys quite often, but that's, we were kind of like a little wild bunch of us guys, Donald so much, not Donald, because Donald was gone out of school, but Neil and I, we went to school. We were only like a year apart. Where Donald was a little bit old. He had already quit. I knew Donald from my next block over. I don't recall him from school. I remember him from on the streets. By the time I was in school, he had quit. Neil Cacciatola, I do, big time, from woodshop with Mr. Fredericks, who was a pretty salty character, and he was a pretty cool guy. And Neil for full disclosure, we used to smoke cigarettes in the bathroom in Ridgewood High School. So we had all the knock-knock signals. We had all the stuff going for the. That's why you don't have doors on your bathrooms anymore. It's because of us guys. So now, if you want to know why you don't have bathrooms on your doors, we're the guys that caused that. So good-hearted guy, good fun-loving character, big kid, big black curly hair, big set of ears, but he was a bunch of fun, and he was always kind of like the class clown, and Mr. Frederickson Woodshop would always be giving him a way to go because Neil was just one little, he was, how should I say, being this thing, he had a lot of spirit in him, you know, so, and it surfaced. So it was a lot of fun, but those guys were part of the tradition of the high school here, and as well as the other James Shukas. I didn't know him because he transferred to this school, but I know he graduated from here, I believe. In fact, he was killed when I was in country in '69. That's when he was killed. Never knew him, but the other Norge resident, he didn't attend school here, was another guy that I knew that lived on the other block of me. Was a guy named Kenneth Wells. He was killed in Vietnam also, but he didn't attend school here. But that's about all I have to say. Again, thank you.
Hello, my name is Karl Quezada, class of 1966, Ridgewood High School. Today I'd like to talk about graduating from this school, which was really a great school. I had a brother 5 years older than I who graduated from Maine West because the school was not open when he could come here. And he always told me how lucky I was that I was able to go right down Montrose Avenue, cross Harlem Avenue, and be in high school. It was a great time here. After graduation, I wound up going to the Chicago Academy of Fine Art and got through with that in 1969 and was in the first wonderful draft lottery, which was there because of the war in Vietnam. So I was deferred for many years because of going to school. Lucky that I was, with the death toll that kept mounting year after year with the Vietnam War. And so in 1970, with that great draft lottery, my number drawn, my birth date 11/2, was number 35. And they said that if you were below 50 in 3 weeks, you'd have your draft papers. And 3 weeks later, I had my draft papers, went to the Ellenwood draft board in Des Plaines, jumped on the train with a bunch of other guys. In downtown, we went to Van Buren Armory, and we went through the infamous, humiliating process of physical, where you only had shoes on, your underwear, your BVD, and a brown bag with all your goods in it. And so the ironics of it all, as far as that goes, is that in the station of heart and lung, I was told that I had a heart murmur, and never knew that. Played basketball at Ridgewood, baseball at Ridgewood, never had any health problems, shortness of breath, nothing. And so got to the end, and a young Army doctor with stethoscope and all that said, "You're not going anywhere. Listen to my heart." And he said, "You got a pretty good heart murmur there. You should take this serious and get together with someone and try to find out a little bit more." So I did, and I stayed very close to it. 11 years later, I was on an operating table at Loyola Medical Center, and there they were opening my chest to remove my aortic valve, which was all scarred up from whatever reason, and replaced it with a metal valve that I still have today. If you were close enough with that camera or that microphone, you could hear me tick. And so in a sense, I guess, my story is the ironics of it. I should say that I have a first cousin, didn't go to Ridgewood here, Orrin J. Cassata, who died in Vietnam in 1967, September of 1967. So he didn't fare out well at all. He died. My brother was drafted in '64, played baseball for the U.S. Army team in the Pacific, and he was lucky, and for 18 months stint there, and then got out and came home. So some guys were lucky, some guys weren't lucky, and I always considered it a double luck because of the fact that I was kind of like incensed to the fact that the war was winding down in 1970, and I had to go down and participate in the lottery. But other guys had gone, like I said, and gave their lives. But being told that I had this murmur made me cognizant of the fact and made me really pay attention to it and stay close to doctors for the next 10 years. Who knows? Had I not had that experience of being told that, maybe I would have never really taken care of it, and who knows, I might not be here. So that's it. That's a story, I think, of both ends. You know, one cousin dying, a brother got out of it by playing ball in Japan, and I got out of it because of the fact that I had a heart murmur, which later was fixed, and I was lucky that I was able to follow through. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doug Peters, class of 1964, Ridgewood High School. Grew up in Harwood Heights, had a brother and sister who also graduated Ridgewood High School. And I'm here to talk about the National Draft Lottery. The first one took place in December of 1969. Up until that time, I had a variety of draft status and deferments. I was once 1A, 2A, 3A, 2S for students, but it kept me out of the immediate draft. However, in December of 1969, I, along with many thousands of other young men, were grouped together for a national draft lottery. I sat in my mother's front room and watched television because it was on TV at the time. I believe WGN had it live. And from Washington, D.C., they were pulling pills out of a jar. And they would open it up and there'd be a number inside. And then those were the birthdays, 1 through 366. On a wall, they had a chart, 1 through 366. The news was that anybody up through, I believe it was 60, was sure to go, and if you were 60 to 100, you had a pretty good chance that you might go, but it depended. I just sat there and watched as they pulled out these pills, and somebody would say, okay, September 24th, that was like number 1. They would just put that one up there on the top of the chart. And I just sat and waited and waited and waited. Finally, they pulled out November 28th, and it corresponded to number 281, I believe. So I wasn't going anywhere. I could now go out and get a better car, a better job. I could do a lot of things. I could plan my future, where all those guys with the low numbers, they could not. You know, they didn't have a future except the U.S. Army, nothing else after that. And I just sat there for a while, just about crying. And then finally I just turned off the TV and went about my life. But it could just, you know, just for fate, they could have pulled out a different pill, and I don't know that I'd be sitting here right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.